All right, hello, and welcome back to the series that I actually have a name for now, The Stars of the Fog. So, my new guest here for Hit Killer the Wraith, who are you? Could you, introduce yourself a little bit, your credentials, what you're known for, stuff like that?
Sure. Hello, I am Scott Junn. I'm a DVD streamer that enjoys Wraith, amongst other things. I do basically only DVD, so life is suffering.
That's completely fair. So, as far as Dead by Daylight, life is suffering. What, got you into Dead by Daylight? When did you start? What was your first, what was the appeal? What got you into it, really?
Yeah, I played it with a couple of my friends, the day it came out in 2016. Played Survivor one game, and then I played Wraith. Actually, was the first killer I played one game, and I thought, wow, this game is terrible, and I didn't play it again for a year. And then in 2017, when Leatherface came out, my wife Jen, who was a very big DVD content creator at the time, kind of just got me to play it, and from there, it just kind of stuck with me. I didn't really have a main game to stream, and I found it to be pretty interesting, and just kind of kept sticking with it from there.
And were you more of a Leatherface guy at the time then?
No, I couldn't. I did not care at all about Leatherface. That's just the time marker that I remember of me joining. I mean, I actually like playing Bubba now, but I wasn't like a specific fan.
That's completely fair. So you said that Wraith, wasn't really up your alley at the time. So when did you really decide to? I know you play a lot of variety killers. You don't have a one trick or anything. But what made you decide that Wraith was your guy? When did that happen, and what caused that?
So it's been, I guess, more of a gradual thing. It's the only killer I've ever P100'd and went through the effort of doing that
On accident, apparently.
Yeah, I was going to keep it at 99 to piss people off, and then I fucked something up, and then I accidentally proceeded. It was a bad time. But the whole thing about Wraith to me is that he is when I play DBD, I tend to not sweat. I don't want it to be a stressful, competitive comp experience. I just want to chill when I'm playing. I still want to win, obviously, but Wraith to me is the most consistent killer over the years that I've ever seen. He is past, a certain buff that he got. He's pretty much always the same relative level of strength, depending on whatever meta changes, whatever new maps keep happening. I started maining Huntress, and Huntress didn't really get that nerfed. She got a little nerfed, but the game kept changing around her. There's more indoor maps, more clutter, and just stuff like that. And I don't know, Wraith, for some reason, I'm never stressed playing Wraith. It doesn't matter what map I get. In fact, sometimes when I get those indoor maps that I would normally hate for those other killers, I'm like, oh, nice. He's the least stressful killer in the game. And that is why I think I find him the most appealing to, I guess, consider main,
Because he's just he's just a chill guy.
Yeah, he's just a chill guy. He's always here to have a good time, and I find the least amount of frustration with him out of any other killer in the game.
That's great reasoning, actually. I'm kind of the same with Nemesis, really, because
Oh, I can feel you on that.
I hate Nemesis. Playing pallets. I was an M1 Andy for 100 hours. I'm like, yeah, this shit sucks. I'm gonna swap off. And then I found Nemesis. I played Plague a little bit during the boon, first coming to DVD, because I was like, these also suck. But then it was just I still have to play pallets, and then Nemesis, and then I'm the Nemesis guy now, so that's cool. You said at the very beginning you played a little bit of Survivor, played a little bit of Killer. You're like, okay, wow, this sucks. And then you came back a year later for Leatherface. So when you came back, were you more of a Survivor player, or were you more of a Killer player?
I only played Huntress for pretty much a year straight. I think my first 400 or 500 hours in the game are just on Huntress. I was I just picked a killer, and I picked Nurse. And then my wife came over and she's like, no, do not learn DBD on this killer after 2 games. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I switched to Hunters. And that probably was good advice, because Nurse does not play DBD.
Yeah, wife. That's not Dead by Daylight. That's playing Nurse.
Yep, exactly.
So now that you've found a main, would you say that you're more of a killer main? Might be a little bit of obvious of a question, but as far as
I'm probably 70-30 killer favorite.
Okay. Yeah. I played a lot of Survivor, so even though now I only play 75% killer now, my ratio is still 54 on Survivor.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of most people nowadays. I don't really know of anyone that just solely mains killer and never touches Survivor anymore.
Yeah, I mean, people play both sides of the game. Is that allowed?
But that means, wait a minute, that means their ideas about the game might actually be good. No.
And nuance?
It can only be one-sided.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, the tribalism thing is crazy. It's
Yeah, it really is.
Okay. Was there an initial appeal for Wraith, or was it just like an overtime type of thing?
I remember I started playing Wraith a lot more when they did like the first major set of buffs for him, like the kicking things while cloaked, the built-in windstorm lunge kind of thing, all that stuff. When they made that patch, I really started playing him a lot more, but I still liked him before that, and I thought he was better than most people thought he was, like even before that.
I mean, the stealth aspect is pretty good. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
When do you feel like you really like got Wraith? Like you're like, okay, I'm pretty confident on my Wraith ability, you know?
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's not that much to Wraith. I mean, let's be honest. He's not the most in-depth killer. That's why for new players, I recommend he's like probably the best killer to like just learn the game on.
Absolutely.
But there are definitely little things about him, and I still think a lot of people really heavily underestimate how useful he can be during a chase. Like people just are drawn to that whole hit and run play style, which, admittedly is very, very effective on him. And that's why a lot of people do it. But if you combine things like with Windstorm and Swift Hunt, like running in front of people to body block, where they're going, and then even just using the exact perfect timing to get the full 1 second like lunge when you're coming out of that. Like once I started like doing those things properly and realizing I could have way more anti-loop than I thought, I guess that's kind of one that hit me.
Okay. And like, obviously, I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but do you have like a rough amount of hours for how long that took before you like started getting him?
Considering I played a bunch of variety like before that, I don't know, maybe like, it's not that much. Maybe like 40, 50 hours before I hit that point, I guess.
Okay. So now this is a little bit of a fun question, less of a balanced one. Like, how do you feel about his cosmetic options? Does he have enough? Does he not have enough? If you had like one choice for a specific skin to get made, what would you do for that?
I've never really been a big cosmetic fan in general. I sort of just slap on whatever I got. Like I would play like an untextured just cube. As long as the gameplay is fun, I don't really care about it. So his cosmetics are fine, question mark. I've never really studied them all, but they seem fine, I guess. I don't feel strongly one way or the other, I guess.
And there's not like one specific thing where you're like, wow, that would be fantastic. I would get that like second one it came out.
Nah, man, I'm in first person. I don't even get to see it 99% of the time. I just don't really care.
What if there was a new cosmetic weapon that you could get?
If they had like a new legendary or visceral skin or whatever, that had a new Mori, for the love of God, update that old Mori. That is what I would love to see.
That would be linked to a cosmetic. So
yeah, anything involving that. The original 3 Moris are just so like just outdated. So I would love to see an update to honestly any of the 3.
And even though it's a visceral skin, Trapper did technically get a new Mori with the Naughty Bear. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah, he did.
Coming soon, TM.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. So with Wraith, I'm gonna say, what is your most like you said what you enjoyed, he's just a chill guy, but what is like the most enjoyable part of your killer? Like a tech, a visual, a sound, like anything. What is the number one thing about Wraith that you're like, I love that?
The complete lack of map dependency. I think he's equally good on almost every map in the game. Like, there's a couple like Ormond and, Blood Lodge, just wide open fields where even though he's, purely invisible at a distance, you can't ambush people as well. But I would say his complete, he's just going to be consistently his exact same strength on almost every map in the game. And he's actually even better on the indoor maps that typically screw over the other like line of sight based killers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love doing the gen on Hawkins, and I don't know who the killer is yet upstairs, and then ding dong, hello.
Yeah.
Definitely has that stealth killer aspect to enjoying outdoor maps a little less, but line of sight stuff for sure. Okay.
I mean, even on the big outdoor maps, I still find it pretty easy to ambush people because, I forget the exact distance off the top of my head.
12 meters or something.
I think it's slightly further than that before you see the shimmer, but I mean, it's still pretty easy to path around and still get free hits on people. But like I said, I actually really tried to chase with Wraith more than I mean, I still obviously want to get ambushes because that's, half his whole thing. But I actually really enjoy the just brute force chase aspect of it as well. So that stuff is a bit less important to me. So I guess that's another reason I don't care about the map nearly as much as well.
Yeah, it's completely fair. Okay, now in pretty much the exact same question, but the other side of things, what do you dislike about Wraith the most? Like, again, tech, visual, sound, anything at all?
Dislike about Wraith. That is way harder to answer because he's like my favorite killer overall, just because I like everything about him. So asking me something I don't like is actually kind of hard to answer. What do I dislike about Wraith? This sounds like such a cheap answer. I don't dislike anything about him. There's a reason he's my favorite. I don't actually have a thing I don't like about him. Everything. I feel like his add-on variants is really cool. He's like one of the gold standards for interesting add-on designs.
Must be nice.
Again, yeah. Hey man, actually, what? Just as an aside, what do you use on your nemesis? Do you use the whole liquor tongue?
Just liquor tongue, Marvin's blood, because
yeah, same. That's all I used to.
Liquor tongue hasn't done anything since his inception. I'm like, I have 3,000 of these. I deserve to have my time.
Do you ever use the zombie gen speed or the zombie speed?
It's not really my favorite. I don't like depending on AI a lot.
Exactly, completely agree. I'm all in on the chase with nemesis.
I was gonna suggest like something to bring up, like for disliking on Wraith is like the bonus stun time if you're invisible.
Well, so the thing about that is I would say that, but he has been bugged for like 2 years straight to where if you are actively uncloaking in the process, like you actually have the bar on your screen, when you are getting stunned, most of the time you just get regular stunned and you don't get uncloak and you retain your invisibility. So he has been bugged for so long. I don't even know if this is supposed to be a base mechanic of the killer now, but I run enduring a lot on him too. So I basically like just nothing happens. So even that I don't mind because I'm pretty sure bugged.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. And we'll have another section on like bugs later. Don't worry. But that's good to know because I didn't know that actually.
Yep. It's kind of ridiculous how long it's been in the game.
Okay, so I know you did say you like every map, but I still want to ask, what is your favorite map and your least favorite map for like personal reasons? And then like, are those the same as his best map and his worst map?
Is this in general for DBD or for Wraith specifically?
I'll say for Wraith specifically.
Okay, favorite map for Wraith, I mean, if you get like a Midwich or a Larry's or something, he's just going to be absolutely brutal to deal with. I mean, any indoor map he's going to do really well on, which is, I usually hate maps like Hawkins and stuff, but when you get like Wraith on those maps, it completely flips it around. So I would say probably Midwich or Larry's would be his strongest because, that stealth is just going to get free hits almost every single time.
Okay.
In terms of least favorite, probably I would say Ormond because the stealth options are pretty much non-existent. The entire map is just a flat. You can surprise people in Shack and in main, and that's about it.
There's like a couple of rocks that are not tall enough to hide behind, but
there's not much there. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's like the obvious, just terrible maps like every Bottom Preschool, Eerie Crows, and Garden of Joy, but even those maps have a decent amount of obstruction to where you can actually benefit stealth-wise. So even if someone's like on the downstairs gen and, basement and bottom, you can still usually get a hit there before they can get to the pallet. So that's another reason, like even those maps that are normally really good, if you can just get that stealth hit and negate that chase to begin with, that's a really nice saving grace about the killer. It kind of negates bad maps a lot of the time.
Like he has the option of like getting people to one shot before having to commit to something.
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
Okay, this is a fun question because I have specifically ran into players like this on NA West. I don't know if you have personally, but how frequently do you run into like fans of your killer? So like stuff like Mori me Wraith, etc., or like antis where like Wraith equals DC. Like how often does that happen? Because
there is absolutely zero Wraith love. Nobody likes going against Wraith.
No, that's Wraith, the thing honestly, though. Because on NA West, there is a player that I keep running into that's like Wraith's wife, Wraith's #1 fan. This is all the same person, by the way. Yeah, and I run, and like obviously ones I can't say on YouTube, but like, and I keep running into them, and I was so excited to bring this up in this interview because I'm like, they exist.
I have never encountered one. From what I've seen, Wraith is pretty universally hated. Mostly because you're going to have people doing the whole hit and run play style, and hit and run is really boring to go against. I completely understand that. So, to me, I have never seen a Wraith fan ever, and I get a lot of disconnects. Even if I'm chasing people, 0 hit and run, 0 sloppy butcher, no anti-heal, nothing, doesn't matter. Just bing bong DC. Like it's a lot of, there's a lot of hate towards Wraith, and I get why, because the play style that a lot of people use is really boring. But yeah, absolutely no fans at all from what I've seen.
And that's like, it's also crazy because on West, I don't know if you know about like the most annoying Wraith player alive that's on my server.
I don't. Please enlighten me.
I'm not messing with you when I say his name. It's PP Poo Poo. He runs Sloppy Butcher, Knockout, and like Surge, and I don't remember his 4th perk. It's been a minute.
That sounds very fun.
And he just slugs the whole lobby to death every single game. And if he gets a streamer, he will go out of his way to just waste 50 minutes of their life.
Sounds like a really cool guy.
He's also like every phobic that exists. So
Oh, of course.
yeah, obviously.
They're always linked together like that, I've noticed.
It's like, you know, if being a loser, like pick a battle, you know, you don't have to do both.
Oh,
But yeah, he's just. I actually, my other video that I am putting out in the next couple of days, I have like a hit piece on him. So because it's
be checking
well,
that
not like a hit piece, but it's like talking about Dead by Daylight, quality of life, how can we improve things, and like I bring up the AFK crows being like removes your collision, so you just walk through him.
Such a no-brainer suggestion that I don't know how they haven't done that yet.
I've stolen it. I don't know who said it first. I said that too.
I didn't make that up either, but it's a really good idea.
And like I have a bunch of stuff like that because I bring up like how it affects head on and like, you know, it turns off head on, so like they can make the AFK crows like do stuff, just remove collision, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, a little off topic there. So you've told me that you really enjoy the playstyle, obviously. So this one is a little bit more in depth as far as character of the killer goes. Do you enjoy him more for the playstyle? Do you really like his lore? What do you think about his lore, or is it like a little bit of A, a little bit of B, or what's the?
So
how's it go?
In terms of lore for DBD, I stopped reading the lore pretty much after Huntress. I don't think I've read the lore of a single killer past Huntress, but I have read the original killers. So I do know about old Philip and his whole, like, you know, killing the boss and the whole spine thing. I mean, I guess that stuff is pretty cool. I just haven't thought about it in 8 years, but I guess his story's pretty cool. I actually like it. I like that he's one of the like. He's one of like the non-evil killers in the game. Like, if you actually read his story, he doesn't seem like he's actually like, evil. He just kind of was forced into something like that. So I guess that's a neat aspect of it. That's about all the info I have on lore. Sorry.
Yeah, there was like this thing where he was, I don't know if it's new lore or not, but he was essentially like, he was in a village and he was like the guy that, you know, ding dong the bell. That's where the bell came from. And he was supposed to like wake up people if, you know, like the other guys came over, and he didn't because he fell asleep, and then he woke up to his whole village burned down and everyone dead.
Wait, is that actually his story? He just slipped
I don't know if that's like up to date, but that was his story at some point. And then he came to America and worked in the records yard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm only familiar with the 1.0 lore of Wraith.
But yeah, so like the bell is part of his guilt, essentially.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's more interesting, I guess.
Yeah. I still think it's his boss's skull, but, you know.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
What was the what was the other part of the original question? Sorry.
Do you enjoy, like, well, you just said you probably enjoy the playstyle more because you don't think about the lore too much, but I was just asking if you thought he was cool, I guess.
Yeah, he's cool. And he's aight.
Yeah, you know, I like his story. He's cool. He's aight.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next one, I don't mean necessarily on a tier list, but how would you rate your killer personally in terms of strength and why? Not just like, well, obviously they're tier, but just like reasoning based on experience, add-ons, whatever you want to do, as in-depth as you want to go.
Yeah. Wraith, to me, I think is without a doubt underrated.
Absolutely.
I don't think he's like, you know, the top tier killer or anything like that, of course, but he is like, I see him like lower B, and like, you know, I think he's like top of B, very bottom of like A if we had to assign a letter to it.
Okay.
For some reason, I don't like intentionally do streaks. I'll just notice I haven't lost in a while, and then I'll go back and check my VODs and go, been like, oh man, it's been like 2 weeks since I've lost. Wraith is consistently my highest win streak without even trying out of every killer in the game. I don't know why. It's just always so effective. I just always do so much better with him than like almost every other killer in the entire game. And I know that just basing, you know, a tier list thing off of just random public matches and stuff is not exactly the, you know, the gold standard there. But it's been consistent over 7 years, basically, that I always have the highest win streaks with Wraith. And I think that is enough of a sample size over time to think that there's something there. Again, I don't think he's top tier or anything, but I do think you could stretch him to being the absolute bottom of A tier or the very top of B tier there.
Yeah, I don't think that he's like necessary. I mean, to be fair, the average player is not going to be playing like comp, 4-man Swift on comms,
of course,
10,000 hours each every game. So like the public experience is kind of the experience of a killer.
Yeah.
Like, of course, some people can take it a lot further than that. And, you know, like what Hens has been doing with his showcases and all that. And like, you know, here's all these amazing killer players doing amazing things, but that's not the average player. So I think that's completely valid.
Yeah, well, it's like when you're making a tier list kind of thing, it's who do you base it off of? Because if you're doing it just in like a comp comparison or something like that, you're going to get different results than just your standard game comparison. So I always say that the overall strength should be compared to going against above average public players. That's like what I would use for like a standard. They know how to counter the killer. They're not, sweating in a 4-man with comms and comp strats and stuff like that, but they know what they're doing. They're not clueless. And then I kind of just base it off of that. Is that good or bad? I don't know. That's just what I do.
Just not playing against like little Timmy 2-tap or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Where do you think Wraith is?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Because like my vision's a bit skewed because I don't really run into wraiths. I run into that one guy, and I don't like him. So like I will admit that I don't really have, because I don't play a lot of Survivor. I do like on Friday for Swift Night. That's it.
That's fair.
So I very rarely run into wraiths. But I think like a B is fair, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like that's where most people end up. Like basically, we're arguing between like a lot of people put him in lower B. I just put him in higher B. It's not that big of a stretch, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you did briefly bring up one earlier, but does your killer have any bugs or techs that maybe aren't as known to the general populace, and maybe any that are really known?
He's had a lot of bugs over the years, but most of them have been fixed. The only consistent one I can think of is having your bar about halfway done before you get stunned. It'll negate the longer stun almost every time. And you can combine that with like Enduring, Shadow Dance, and get rid of pallets like really fast. It's honestly kind of abusable, and I try not to do that. But I mean, sometimes I'm just uncloaking in a pallet and I get stunned. I can't not abuse it. It just happens.
You just have to stand still for a little bit like, oh, I'm stunned.
Yeah.
Oh.
Other than that, he is surprisingly functional now. That's another reason I like him. He does not really have any other bugs, and the only bug that he does have is frankly beneficial to him. So yeah, that's there's one thing sometimes if you're on a high ping or like a packet loss server, sometimes when you finish your uncloak and you try to swing, the game still counts you as uncloaking, and you basically just nothing happens and you waste your lunge. So that can be frustrating, but that's more of a server ping thing, and that can affect, I mean, Nemesis high ping is miserable too, I'm sure you know.
Oh, so. I'm very well aware, because the servers were just kind of like blowing up last week, and I just had 200 ping so every game, and it's like 4 seconds before I can throw the tentacle, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I have to sympathize with you so much. I feel like Nemesis and Blight might be the two most like latency dependent killers in the entire game from the killer side. Like Blight with his rebounding back and forth can be so frustrating, and then you're already having to aim a tentacle that's not coming out at the time that you think it's gonna come out, so then you end up just missing. It's awful.
At least with Nemesis, when you whip drag it, there's a lot of stuff you can do where they just cannot dodge it. Like if they're going to shack window, it doesn't matter if I'm on 40 ping or 200 ping. If they aren't taking the window, like I can just drag half of shack and they're not dodging it.
For sure. But yeah, other than that, I mean, that's more of a server issue than anything. So no, there's one bug and it only benefits Wraith. So
all right, I didn't even know about that bug prior to this, so learning. Boom.
And maybe next time you go against PP Poo Poo, you'll see it.
Oh yeah, oh boy. I just won't stun him. Oh wait. Okay. So this next one is less specific. This is more of like a vague DBD question. It can apply to your killer, of course, but what are your thoughts on like the Go Next epidemic? And you did bring it up a little bit earlier, but like how often do you have people disconnecting or going next on hook against your killer?
It's not so bad. Every once in a while, if I get a really bad map or a very strong team and I do have to start relying on the whole hit and run thing, then the most disconnects I ever get is when I hit somebody out of uncloak and then recloak. Within 5 seconds, that is when the disconnect window is going to be, when they see I'm not committing to the chase. But I will say maybe the way I play is not as bad as you can play with Wraith, so I don't get that many disconnects, honestly, with Wraith. No more than just normal, and honestly, normal is a lot, so I guess it still happens a lot, but it's the standard the current time, I guess. But
it doesn't feel like a Wraith specific thing. It feels more like a play style thing or something, if at all.
Yeah, it's usually like a build I'll have on. Like if I have like the totem build, I mean that's a guaranteed go next for half the people playing the game right now. So that I can understand that stuff, but it doesn't really feel super Wraith specific until when I do notice it very heavily. If someone like has a build request for my Wraith or something like that, and I have like Sloppy Butcher, Gifted Pain, Leverage. If I have like those anti-heal perks that lead towards that play style, then I will notice way more disconnects at a much more rapid pace. So I think the build and playstyle impacted a lot. So normally I don't see it too much, but if the build is there, then yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, for sure. I like being healed when I can get one shot, Like,
yep, no, it's
Makes me nervous.
Wraith is one of the few killers in the game that you can't feel safe being injured against. So.
And I'm sure I know what your answer is going to be about this specifically, just because like we kind of just talked about it. But from a survivor point of view, what is the most frustrating part about playing against your killer?
Yeah, 100% hit and run. People that don't ever chase you. The entire fun of Survivor is getting chased, and you will never enter a single chase with a Wraith that does that playstyle. So that's very, very boring, and I completely sympathize with people that don't like that.
They just smack you, they leave, they come back later to pick up the hook for free.
Yep, pretty much.
How do you feel about win streaks on your killer? Do you feel like, compared to other killers, it's easy to win streak on them? And if so, do you personally enjoy win streaking? And if so, why? Not necessarily in like maybe in like an actively going for win streaks way, but you did say you sometimes just get them because you enjoy Wraith, you like playing Wraith, you have fun, so it just happens sometimes.
Yeah, I really do not like going for win streaks. I play video games to just chill. I just play them to relax. Going for win streaks makes every game stressful for no apparent reason.
100%.
I mean, it gets eyes on the stream and stuff like that, which can be, that can be good for you. But to me, it's just not worth the stress of it. But yeah, I also don't like the way that win streaks kind of alter your playstyle. It might make you, play in a much, more of a dick way than you normally would, and for basically no reward whatsoever. You're just essentially making the community slightly worse by being giga sweaty every single game for nothing. So I've never been a fan of doing them intentionally. But yeah, like I said, I sometimes will notice, hey, I haven't lost a Wraith in like 2 weeks. What the hell's going on? So I'll go back and check my VODs, and then I'll count them just retroactively. And I was like, oh man, I was on a 70 streak there. That's crazy. So I do them, but I don't go out of my way to do it. I just notice that it's been happening in the past, I guess.
And do you ever like keep a counter on screen, or is it just like in your head, like, oh, I'm doing well?
That makes it real. That makes it stressful.
Okay.
That makes it suddenly, now if I mess this up, it's 10 times more of a sinking feeling in my gut. If I'm not keeping track of it, and it's, and I just screw up, whatever, I just go next, who cares? So it's just too stressful for me. Yeah,
exactly. I'm kind of the same way. Like I did like kind of a streak for a bit where it's just like, okay, but the rules like, 2K is a tie, 3K, 4K, I get a point, 1K or lower, I lose. And then, just like, I'm not really thinking about it. But like, even when I'm not like going out of my way to sweat, because I constantly make jokes about like, oh, here's my government mandated 8 hooks before the Survivor Handbook says I can kill someone. Because like, I don't even try it. I just get 8 hooks. I'm like, oh, no one's dead. Interesting. Anyway.
Yep.
But like, I don't pay attention to hook stages at all. So
yeah, I am the exact same way. I just see a person, I chase them. Unless they were just off the hook, I'll try to get the guy that unhooked them. That's pretty much it.
Even when I go back to hook, like, unless the unhooker is hiding, which I run Floods of Rage, so not really happening. But, I'll go after them usually.
Yep.
So when you play Survivor against Wraith specifically, do you usually find yourself enjoying that match? Why or why not? You can even talk about the different play styles and like, I know hit and run, but
yeah. If there's a Wraith that's chasing me, I love going against Wraiths that actually try to lunge around loops and stuff like that. I love doing like the little mind game of, is he going to uncloak one way and then quickly whip back around the other way if the loop is short enough to do that. So Wraiths that actually engage with chase, I love going against that.
Actually engaging with the killer? What?
I know, it's rare. There's not many of them. But if they are doing hit and run, I sometimes don't mind it depending on my build. Like if I have like a giga healing build or something, I actually kind of prefer that because I'll heal people faster than the Wraith is hitting people. And I take a smug sense of satisfaction over the fact that I know he's getting frustrated about it. But other than that, if I don't have like a specific anti-slug, anti-hit and run build, then no, it's pretty miserable.
Yeah, it definitely depends on your build in situations like that, because it's like, oh, they're 4-man slugging. Oh, but I have Wiglif on.
Yeah, like, exactly.
But yeah, stuff like that. It's just, I don't even know how to like talk about it really, but like the idea of just, I got out perked always feels kind of bad, because it's just like, oh, just run X to counter Y, forehead, but it's also like the entire alphabet of just run yin or counter yin. It's like, I don't have that many perk slots.
Yeah, you can't prepare for every possible thing that you're going to go against.
Exactly.
When it works out, it's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I do get the sense of satisfaction, but like the negativity bias. So like, I will always feel like, oh, I'm not running DS and then I'm getting tunneled, or I'm not running Unbreakable and then I'm getting slugged or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the classic, you can ensure you are the first person chased every game by running Deliverance.
Exactly. All right. So what are some common misconceptions about Wraith? Like, what do you wish people understood? Like, is there a common grievance, like hit and run, obviously, but is there a common grievance that people have against them that has obvious counterplay that isn't being used or anything like that? Like,
well, I'd say more from the perspective of playing Wraith. There was a nerf Wraith got a couple of years ago. He used to get his movement speed bonus I think he moves at 6.9 meters a second coming out of Invis. He was
nice.
1 point, yeah. Oh yeah, that was nice. It was 1.5 seconds. The lunge is I think the lunge is like 0.6 seconds. So you had basically a second to walk forward and then you can do your lunge while still maintaining the full thing. He got nerfed and now it's only 1 second. And people I see everywhere, they always say they removed Wraith's lunge, but that doesn't make any sense because you still have a second and a lunge is like still 0.6 seconds. So you still have 0.4 seconds of wiggle room to mess up the timing and you can still do that. So I'd say that's one of the biggest misconceptions. People think that lunge like doesn't exist anymore or it isn't as good. But if you are running Swift Hunt and you are like, within touching distance of a survivor when you uncloak, you are always able to instantly lunge and hit them no matter where they are. Like you'll be able to make up that exact amount of distance if you time your uncloak swing perfectly. So I'd say that's one of the biggest things. People think that lunge is negated or not good or gone now, but it's still very, very powerful when used right.
It's just more of like you have less of a window to actually swing for the lunge.
Right. And surprisingly, that is one of the few skill cap things there is for Wraith is getting the timing of the uncloak perfectly, because if you do it too soon, you don't swing at all and then you just waste the entire thing. Do it too late and you don't benefit from the full extended lunge. So getting that timing down perfectly, it's a very minor skill ceiling
like
thing,
but that is
thing. Yeah, exactly. But it's a very important thing to maximizing the damage you can do.
And obviously, because I don't play a lot of Wraith, I got my achievements and I bounce. Is that another thing that's like affected by ping at all or no?
Yes. If you have high ping, you have to wait longer to press M1 to start the lunge. It's awkward as hell. It's really bad.
The game's awkward when you're playing on a ping you're not used to? That's
crazy, right?
Okay, this is a little bit of an open-ended question for you, so I'll just kind of let you cook. What is general advice you would give to people learning Wraith?
Learning Wraith. I always say Wraith is the best killer in the game to learn the game with, because if you're newer to the game, most survivors don't rely on looping, they rely on hiding, and it's very hard to hide against the killer that you can't, hear or see. So very, very good there. And also he does have to eventually obey the base mechanics of the game, so you have to learn how to run tiles and stuff like that. So he's just always really, really good for just learning DPD in general.
First of all, pick Wraith.
Yeah, pick Wraith. That's definitely a good one. I would say, unfortunately, his most effective strategy is the hit and run thing. I would say learn when to uncloak properly. You don't want to uncloak, obviously, when you're in vision of people. You want to do it when you're behind a wall, and by the time, because the bell doesn't sound until you're halfway done with the uncloak. So you want to be halfway done by the time you actually get into view, and then that'll almost always give you a hit. I will say you need to learn to use Wraith's movement speed to your advantage in terms of anti-loop. So sometimes when you'll hit somebody, what I'll do almost every time after I hit somebody is I will immediately cloak again, and I will just run ahead of them and see what they're pathing to and see what windows in front of them. And if you're running like the Windstorm add-on, it's pretty easy to just simply get in front of them and stop them from getting from that. That'll get you a free down. At the very least, if they see you running ahead, it can zone them and redirect them into an area that is far less beneficial to them. So just by using your movement speed, you can sort of corral survivors into wherever you want them to go, and that can be incredibly useful as well. So I'd say those are probably the main important things to learn with Wraith.
Okay, cool. I didn't actually know the bell only dings when you're halfway done with it, so that's also another pretty good tip there. And then just for real though, if you're playing Wraith, go body block people. They cannot vault through you.
Yep.
You were invisible, not intangible.
The one thing I will have to say is I feel like Swift Hunt is like nearly required for Wraith. Because if you do not have Swift Hunt, that's the add-on that makes you uncloak faster.
Okay.
If you do not have that add-on, if you are touching a survivor and start uncloaking, you are just slightly out of maximum lunge range. So if they're able to get to a pallet or something, you won't be able to get there in time. So I always run like just green or purple Swift Hunt, and that kind of completely changes the strength of anti-loop that Wraith actually has. And a lot of people that think that Wraith doesn't have any typically are running different add-ons like, like Shadow Dance or whatever, like they're running something else. So I would say Swift Hunt is a damn near required add-on for Wraith if you want to play in a more heavy anti-loop style. So
Do you usually run both of them, or just
I'm running
one of them?
Swift Hunt, Windstorm every single game. That's the only two I run.
And
Those are my
Windstorm
Liquor Stone, Mormon's Blood.
is...
Windstorm is much faster movement speed while you're invisible, so that
That's what I
enables your
thought. I
body
just
blocks
wanted
to
to
be
make
way
sure.
better. Yep. Yep.
Okay, so this one is another little bit an open-ended one, but if you could change anything about the killer itself, what would it be? Like, is there anything for accessibility, the kit itself, balance, the vibe, like anything at all? Like, is there anything inherently problematic about the character? What would you change? Just like full pipe dream, whatever you would want to do. I don't mean like make him S tier overnight, but like what would you do?
Of course. I would argue Wraith is in a literally perfect spot. I think his add-on design is perfect. I think his counterplay is there, but he's also strong when used properly. He's one of the few killers in the game I have no suggestions for. I think he's just perfect.
I like him a lot. It's actually really interesting.
I mean, if I had one quality of life thing that I would love, it would be to not have the longer stun time while stealth, but I'm just drawing at straws to say something here. The last remnant of things that I wanted them to remove was the light burn, because that was painful. If you went against a team with flashlights, you were just useless. Ever since then, yeah, I don't really have many other suggestions.
I mean, this is a personal thing. I just want Lightburn back for that one guy. Everyone else doesn't need to have it.
Just if your name is Pee Pee Poo Poo, you can get Lightburn.
Exactly.
Everyone else, yeah.
100% just a personal bias.
Yep, no, that's fair.
Okay, so you think he's just great, but
yeah.
How have updates treated you? Would you say that the buffs or nerfs have been fair so far from behavior side?
I would say every single change that they made to Wraith, I would say removing the 0.5 seconds from the post-invis speed duration thing, that was probably unnecessary. Like, he was not so top tier that he needed that slight nerf, but I find it to be but I still find that to be pretty minor. So I would say most of the changes that he's received have just been solely beneficial. I think every single change he's received other than that one has been beneficial over the past like 4 or 5 years, so they've just been all good.
That's pretty good. And as far as things treating Wraith well, how would you feel the meta has treated you as far as like perks, he hasn't had a full rework. He's had a few buffs, but as far as like perks on either side have treated you, how would you feel those have treated Wraith?
So that is another reason I love Wraith. It seems like no matter what type of maps they add, what new tiles they add, what new clutter to maps they add, what perks, he sort of always just kind of vibes with whatever the meta is and he can do just fine. I would say the last time he was really struggling a lot was when original Circle of Healing was a thing, because that shit was ridiculous.
Absolutely.
But ever since that, I mean, he can do so many different play styles, and that's like, I think he's one of the few killers in the game. Like, the whole Gen Kick meta obviously is super dead, but he's still actually really good at doing that, because the ability to just be able to drive by, at Mach speeds and kick stuff while stealth, and you can set up so many things that like I wouldn't think of doing anymore. Like, eruptions, even like the good old eruption overcharge Call of Brian meta from a while ago. Like, Wraith can still do that, actually. He sticks with metas that don't even exist anymore, and I don't really see anything that has come out recently that has negatively impacted him in any way. Usually he just gets more shiny new toys, and honestly, even with the whole busted totem build that everyone's doing now, he's very good at dealing with that too. So yeah, no, he's pretty much always moving with the meta.
It's good to hear. Trapper, I know he's like the poster boy, but I feel like he gets kind of bullied by the meta sometimes.
Trapper? I mean, yeah, he's
Trapper.
I don't understand how. I don't know why they neglect the literal mascot of their game so much, but God bless him, he keeps trying, I guess. I don't know. He's
had like some pretty nice changes as far as updates go, with like being able to rearm your traps, movement speed while placing one, like stuff like that.
I don't know why they're so timid with him. Like, they're so scared to make him even like decent. I don't know.
Yeah, I've just talked to Pally about it, and I really liked his answer to this question, because the next one I have is the last one I have. What would make you drop Wraith completely? What would be the last nail in the coffin?
What would make me drop Wraith? If they somehow shifted his power to only allow the hit and run playstyle to be effective. So that would be they lower his movement speed while cloaked, they make his uncloaked speed fast or slower, they remove Swift Hunt, anything that impacts his ability to anti-loop, they remove his post-invis lunge, things like that. Anything that forces the hit and run playstyle as the only effective playstyle would probably make me drop him.
I mean, that makes sense just from what you said about your Wraith playstyle.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, that is pretty much all I have. If you'd like to do your outro for anything you have coming up, where we can find you, feel free to like say that.
Yeah,
I'll put links on screen.
Things in my future. I am cooking some mashed potatoes now. They're going to be pretty good. That's all I'd like to advertise.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Well, thank you for your time and for coming on. I had a nice time speaking with you.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks. Take
Have
it easy.
a lovely rest of your evening, everybody. Bye.
Take it easy.